Hello, my name is Dr. Alan Wegg. I'm a licensed psychologist and the director of Stress and Anxiety Services of New Jersey, an independent practice specializing in the cognitive behavioral therapy of anxiety disorders, especially obsessive-compulsive disorder. In OCD, a person experiences obsessions, or intrusive thoughts or images, which result in anxiety. The person with OCD will then try to lower or control this anxiety by engaging in behavioral rituals or compulsions. I have found that telling stories that in themselves have nothing to do with OCD or sharing metaphors is a wonderful way to get across the ideas behind the therapy and to help clients understand and commit to treatment. Over the years, I have collected dozens of these stories, and I recently put them into a book entitled OCD Treatment Through Storytelling, A Strategy for Successful Therapy, published by Oxford University Press. This short video that you're about to see will introduce you to 3 of these stories, and I have chosen ones that get at the very heart of what this treatment is all about. Here they are. A bee trap is a device that you can put in your backyard so that when you have guests over and a bee enters the yard, the bee goes to the trap and it doesn't bother you or your guests. And you can make a bee trap yourself. It's easy. This is how. You just go to the store and you buy one of those 2 or 3 liter bottles of soda, the one where the plastic is clear, not the green or the brown tinted. You empty out the soda, you take off the label, so you have a long, clear plastic bottle. You take honey, you pour it into the top of the bottle, let it go straight down, form a small puddle at the bottom of the bottle. Then about 2/3 of the way up from the bottom of the bottle, you take black electrician's tape, the kind of tape that they use on electrical wiring, and you start wrapping that tape around the bottle over and over and over again, slowly moving up past the nozzle, and then you snip it so you have a small opening at the top of the bottle. Once the honey is dried, you now take the bottle, you turn it upside down, and you take a wire or an open paper clip, and you now tape it to what was the bottom of the bottle, but it's now the top, so you can hang it upside down in the tree. What ends up happening is a bee enters the yard. It doesn't have a nose, it can't smell, but it can detect the scent of the honey. And it follows that scent up through the opening at the bottom of the bottle, flies up inside to the roof where the honey is, and even though the honey is dried, it can extract certain things from the honey. And when a bee is ready to go back to the hive, it's sort of programmed that when it's in an enclosure, like a cave or a hollow tree trunk, it knows that the way out is where the light is. So it goes to where the light is, which is everywhere, towards what is now the top of the bottle. But of course, it slams its body against the plastic because the bee doesn't get the concept of plastic. But why doesn't the bee just say to itself, well, duh, I'll just go out the bottom of the bottle where the opening is the same way that I came in. It doesn't do that because every single time it flies down towards the bottom of the bottle, it's dark there. We blocked out the light with the black tape. And so it feels like it's flying in the wrong direction and it flies back up, but that keeps it trapped. In order for the bee to escape the trap, what it has to do is it has to fly in what feels like the wrong direction. It has to fly into the darkness to fly out to freedom. What's this got to do with the cognitive behavioral therapy for obsessive-compulsive disorder? Everything. When you have OCD and you get anxious about whatever, your tendency is to either avoid or to do things to help yourself feel more safe and less anxious. The only way to really free yourself of the actual OCD trap is to fly into the darkness, to fly in the wrong direction, to move towards the very things that make you feel uncomfortable, to do the very things that make you feel more uncomfortable in order to free you. That is called exposure therapy because you're exposing yourself to the very thing that you want to escape from. But there are rules in exposure therapy, and the next couple of stories really review what those rules are. The horror story. You call me up and you say, let's go to the movies. And you're one of my best friends, and I'm so excited that you ask me to go to the movies with you that I don't even ask you what movie it is. So we go to the movies, we're walking, we're talking, we pay for the movies, we go into the theater, we sit down, and the movie starts. And I still haven't asked you what movie this is. I really haven't been paying attention. The movie is one of those basic horror films that are really gory. And in the story that I'm telling you, you love these kinds of movies. I hate them. The movie starts, and right away someone gets beheaded and there's blood all over the place. I get really upset. I stand up and I head out of the theater into the lobby. You follow me and you say, come on, I really want to see this movie. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. This makes me really upset. So you know my weakness. And you say, I saw that in the front area there, they're selling those big buckets of popcorn with extra butter, and I will buy you one of those if you come and watch the movie with me. So it is my weakness, and I give in, and I go in with you, and I really sit down and watch the movie. And I don't cover my eyes, but I really, really watch the whole movie, and I have a very hard time. My heart is racing, I'm hyperventilating, I'm breathing very quickly, my muscles are tense. I'm just really a wreck. But I watch the whole movie with you. And at the end of the movie, I say, that was a really great movie. And I say, were you kidding? That was a mess. I thought I was going to pass out right here in the theater. But you say, no. I really want to watch this again. Can you please stay and watch it again? And I say, I don't think so. But you go to the lobby, and you get something else for me to eat. And I give in, and I watch the movie with you a second time. At the end of the second time, you turn to me and you say, let's sit through it one more time. And somehow, you get me to sit and watch this movie a third time. So we have this major marathon all day long of watching this movie 3 times in one day. And then the next day comes and you call me up and you have the audacity to say to me, let's go to the same movie again. And I do. Don't ask me how you get me to go this time. But I watch it again with you, but not only once, again, 1, 2, 3 times. And so over the course of just 2 days, I watch this movie with you 6 times. And then there's a third day and the same thing happens 3 times in a row. And so we've watched the movie 9 times. And let's say it's a 4-day weekend, so you call me up again. And now, another marathon day. And so over the course of 4 days, you and I have watched this movie 12 times. Now, do I respond to this movie the 12th time the same way that I did the first time? Of course, the answer is no. Why? Because I got used to it. I know what's coming. There's no more surprises. Now, I might not like this movie the way that you do, but I don't have that strong visceral reaction to it anymore. I don't freak out. If anything, I'm bored. This process of getting used to is called desensitization. The word sensitive is in there. Another word that we use is habituation. The word habit is in there. It becomes habit-like to me. And the idea basically here is that in exposure therapy, in order to get over the fears that trigger your OCD, you have to not only fly into the darkness, but you've got to fly into the darkness over and over and over again. However, the more you fly into the darkness, the lower your anxiety will become. So a lot of people hear these 2 stories about the bee trap and the horror movie, and they say, okay, I understand that exposure therapy is the way to go to get over OCD, and I understand that I have to fly into the darkness over and over again, and if I do that, I will actually get over the fear, but I'm not interested. Why? Because I don't want to feel like you felt the first time you watched that movie. You know, that you were freaking out, you felt like you were going to faint. Those feelings scare me. They're too overwhelming, I can't handle it. Perfectly understandable. And that's why we have the third story, short story. Very, very hot summer's day. Very, very cold, unheated, in-ground swimming pool. There are 2 strategies for entering that pool. One is the running cannonball dive, where you throw your body over the deep end of the water, you stick your knees into your chest, make yourself into a ball, and plow yourself into the frigid waters all at once, scream your guts out, and about 30 seconds later, you kind of get used to the water. The alternative, of course, is to go over to the shallow end where the stairs are and very slowly introduce your feet, and then your knees, and then your thighs, each time letting yourself get used to the water a little bit before you move on. We call this, in cognitive behavioral therapy, gradual exposure therapy or stepwise exposure therapy. And the main difference between that and just doing exposure therapy is that you have real control over how fast you face your fears, you fly into the darkness. And so in the cognitive behavioral therapy for obsessive compulsive disorder, all we're really doing is we're identifying those things that you're really afraid of and developing a system where you do exposure therapy repeatedly over a period of time, starting with small levels and then building the intensity of that exposure until you can do the very things that are the most uncomfortable for you to do, thereby freeing you from the OCD. Hello again. Now that you have watched and listened to these stories, you and I now have a sort of shorthand that we can use when discussing the treatment of OCD. You understand that the paradoxical treatment of exposure and response prevention involves flying into the darkness, and that while you have to repeatedly go to the horror movie in order to ensure your recovery, you can still control at what end and how quickly you enter into the swimming pool. We now have a common language, you and I, an understanding of these concepts that we share when images and feelings are conjured up by these stories. You more fully trust that I really understand what your anxieties are all about, and I feel more confident that you understand and are invested in the therapy. This is how storytelling in the treatment of OCD works. There are more than 50 additional stories in my book. They are all designed to help therapists conduct treatment, to help family members understand what their loved ones are going through, and to guide those with OCD towards recovery. Thanks for watching.